Yo, what up? This is D Knight, and you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. My oh my, we've had so much going on. For starters, in case you missed it, we've got a new addition to the Pardon Pie family, Tara Dublin. Make sure you go follow her on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks. Also, pick up a copy of her book while you're at it. Make her day, The Sound of Settling. A very fun and interesting read compared to the things we talk about on this podcast. But yeah, we're heading toward the do or die time for the 2024 election. Go ahead and hit up JoeBiden.com. Get that man like $1 a month or something. Help his campaign staff up and get prepared to try and save our democracy. And make sure to grab like one other person you know and tell them about the podcast. Make sure they subscribe and tune in every single week. We got a lot of things coming up for you this year. We need all the support that we can get. So if you do your part and help us grow our audience, we'll do our part and help elect Joe Biden in 2024 and save American democracy. And this is the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Carol.
This is Ty.
And you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, where we will let a naysayer know about the fucking insurrection on January 6th. Speaking of which, we're currently recording this on January 6th. I feel like it is a personal day for me, and obviously a day that we will always remember, never forget. I mean, people will say that it was a day that wasn't quite as serious as 9/11, because obviously far more people died. But my take on that, as always, has been that no matter how many planes bin Laden crashed, or how many buildings bin Laden crashed planes into, we were never going to lose our democracy. But on January 6th, if them fuckheads had ignored the black police officer and been slightly less racist, they were a couple of steps away from entering the Senate chambers and murdering half of our legislative branch, presumably ending the transfer of power from one president to another, leading us into a dictatorship. Before we, I guess, elucidate further on that particular topic, let's give a shout out to our sponsor from Sheets and Giggles. This is the perfect fucking way to sell some sheets. Make you feel depressed about the potential of losing your democracy forever and ending up in concentration camps.
Does that concept make you want to lie in bed motionless all day? Do so in comfort with Sheets and Giggles. Luxurious, renewable, sustainable sheets that don't renew them, but you can wash them by a very handsome proprietor,
right? Yes, if the prospect of losing your democracy is leaving you in miserable, heartbreaking depression to the point where you can't get out of bed every day, at least you'll be depressed on the most comfortable sheets on planet Earth. So make sure you pick up a set of sheets from sheetsandgiggles.com before democracy is over.
That makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. Okay.
Oh, for God's sake. Colin is going to we're not even going to get to the 2024 election because Colin is going to shoot us for butchering ads for his company. So again, as you're well aware, it's January 6th. At this rate, you'll probably be listening to this podcast on January 7th, and you'll have enjoyed a day of festivities. Klanuary 6th, as I like to refer to it. Never forget. Other people might typically refer to this day going forward as White Juneteenth.
Lord.
Yeah, I know. Not ideal. But I do feel like if President Biden ever signs into law White History Month, I feel like that celebration, quote unquote, will begin on January 6th. It'll go from January 6th and roll right into Black History Month because, of course, yeah, these jokes is dark. I'm sorry. It's been a
Actually, White History Month is going to go from January 6th to Christmas. That sounds appropriate, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Enough. Right. Just, yeah.
That's for the whole when's White History Month crowd.
Just appropriate all the months, I suppose. But yeah,
we already have all the months.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You already have all the months. So it's been 3 long years since the day when Trump brought his mob to the Capitol, sent them down to the Capitol building and had them storm the building in an attempt to stop Congress from certifying the election for Biden's electoral college win. It has been a fucking road, let me tell you. It's been exhausting.
It's weird. Like, I mean, on the 1 year anniversary, it was like, gosh, it's been 1 year. This anniversary, I mean, it's the 3rd, but it's more anxiety ridden for me. And I don't know if it's because so much is at stake this year. Like on the first year, and it was like, man, we made it through that first year. And the second, but it's the danger is so palpable at this point. It's absolutely palpable. It is.
Well, I understand your anxiety because we are currently at this point as close to having yet another insurrection as we were from the first one, on the first anniversary. Because the thing is, like, having President Biden soothe us in 2021, my God, like, irreplaceable. He's an irreplaceable person, an irreplaceable president, given the circumstances. But you felt like because the next election was 3 years away, you had time to breathe and kind of regain your composure.
Yes, my time ended. I don't like it. Yeah,
where'd the fucking time go? Where did it go? And
it seemed like 4 years was such a long way away.
It was. It's simultaneously been an eternity, and it's evaporated overnight.
Yeah, because it's like us never really getting a chance to breathe. It feels it was never ending. It's been 2020 has been the longest
4 years of your life. Yes.
Like,
absolutely. I haven't had any severe, like, physical or emotional trauma in my life. And I guess I'm lucky to say that because I'm aware that, a number of other people deal with all kinds of terrifying, horrifying circumstances or just stressful circumstances. But I can only imagine after, our nationwide experience with a global pandemic that, nearly ended the world economy and took millions of lives. Combined with the fact that our democracy was at stake, combined with the fact that even after winning an election and saving democracy, we experienced the first attempt by a sitting president to end the transfer of power from one president to another, like, just in the fallout thereof, like the collective trauma from that we all share now. But having been through this experience, I just, like, maybe I don't understand fully, but I do have a grasp on what it must be like for someone to have experienced severe trauma in their life. Because I find that time no longer means anything.
Yes, that's true.
Like days, weeks, months, they kind of just all blur together.
Yep.
Now, there's like, so looking back on things in my life personally, and I don't know if this is like this for everyone, it might just be me. There's like before 2020 and there's after 2020. And before 2020, I'm like, I remember this thing happened at this specific time, and then this thing happened. And then after 2020, it's like everything happened all at once.
$2 cash.
Congratulations.
To be a Nielsen household.
Huh?
Nice.
Nielsen, the ratings people.
Oh, did they cut you a royalties check?
Well, I got $2 for my participation. However, in 1997, I was given $5.
Oh, fucking congratulations. That's more money that's more money than you're making on this podcast.
Inflation. Wait, are you saying that there is no inflation? We have actually
I don't know. Something happened to that other $3. I mean,
This
I
is now an
thought-
investigative journalism podcast.
Two ones.
Where had Ty's $3 gone?
Where
Yeah,
have my
Economy?
Biden?
Was it greed? Did Biden do it? Yeah.
yeah, I blame Biden for this. Yeah, no, sorry, audience. I know, I'm aware. Audio medium only, and we're doing visual jokes. Ty was holding up $2. You're like, I can't see that shit.
She mentioned $2.
Well, she held it up for us and mouthed it in silence as I was talking. Anyway, but yes, back to more important things. Ty, way to lighten the mood there. It's been, look, we've had a lot. It's just a lot crammed into 3 years. Like, we started this podcast in 2022, at the advent of the January 6th committee hearings. And I didn't know what we would do with this thing. I was like, well, this feels like the perfect time to kind of reiterate what's going on with the January 6th committee. We didn't understand at that time that the eventual conclusion of the legal process as it pertains to Merrick Garland's Department of Justice and the eventual appointment of a special counsel and multiple indictments in multiple jurisdictions for multiple sets of crimes, along with multiple state indictments. I mean, actually, to be fair, I did actually believe all of that was coming, but if I had sat down and just like explained in detail that I believe we'd be in a similar position to where we are now, at that time, no one would have believed me because I tried to fucking tell people on Twitter and all they did was shit on me for a year and a half. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess when you get to that place of like ongoing normalized trauma, it's hard to want to believe. It's hard to believe anything good will happen, but people become like outrage and fear addicts and just like, I don't know. I feel like they have to be angry.
Yeah, they have to
be 24/7. Everything is anger. They're addicted. They're addicted to drugs.
And the thing is, even when they get like the resolution that they, were complaining about not getting, well, because that would like solve the problem and alleviate the anger, they have to move the goalpost to create something new to be outraged about. Because I remember it vividly. I kept telling people, I was like, hey, man, DOJ is looking at this. You got to give them some time. Like, it's going to be a process for a number of reasons. And, of course, there's also like, there's fallout just from having Trump in office for 4 years. And, one of the issues with that is he got to fill the Department of Justice with fucking cronies. And we don't know what kind of fucking wrenches Bill Barr threw into the machine to, fuck this up for Biden's incoming attorney general. And people didn't listen to me. And I told y'all, and like, of course, I was correct about that too. This is like Pat D patting himself on the back podcast day, I guess, or something. But no.
It's only because we can't reach you, sweetie.
Look, also, yet another side tangent, like, this podcast is a lot different now than it would have been had I started earlier, before people on Twitter just beat like they beat it out of me. The fact that there was like so many things that I want to talk about that people just wouldn't believe me or wouldn't hear. So now you just missed out on what could have been a totally different, probably more pleasurable experience. Anyway, that aside, there's been a lot of fucking consequences. I think, again, if you go back to March, April, May, June, July of 2021, when the investigation was just first getting underway, really, as it pertains to Trump and his insiders. And again, I know you want to blame Merrick Garland for that. Merrick Garland, it's largely not his fault that things got delayed for a number of reasons. It took him forever to get confirmed because of the 50-50 split in the Senate, and Republicans had enough. Because of the 50-50 split, they were just able to just put up I don't know. They put up barriers to making that process run more smoothly. So he was confirmed in March. He couldn't get his deputies confirmed for more, months after that. Trump's holdovers, he's getting briefings from dudes who aren't even telling him like all the fucking facts, just like slowing the investigation down. Once those dudes got up out of there and Garland got his people in, this shit got rolling. And they were seizing phones, they were seizing devices, they were looking at Trump's fucking Twitter account. They were getting these emails from people. They were on that shit. And by the time the January 6th committee rolled around, it just so happened to coincide with the public hearings, just so happened to coincide with the public steps Merrick Garland's office was taking. And then from there, just like, again, do you guys remember when we started this podcast and we were talking about, I wonder what we're going to do when like the January 6th committee hearings are
right?
Little did we know.
Well, I mean, but look at Allison. I mean, the Mueller report is how old? And
Mueller. Yeah.
Mueller.
Right. I like Mueller too.
Yeah, I like
even if it's quote unquote not how they pronounce the name.
Is this because you're like a fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off? So you're like,
no, I don't even think I've seen that movie.
That is impossible. And that's not even.
Mueller, she wrote. I mean, but she still has the name, and it's still,
yeah, still relevant. I mean, it's a period of time. It definitely invokes 2018.
I think what we can thank Republicans, but because they never let shit go, we can keep going on, and they're still, insurrecting. And, Trump is always talking about the Mueller.
It's okay. Just say Russia investigation.
Yeah. I can't even say it like.
It's okay. Mueller.
Mueller.
Can you say duller? It's just like that. It's with an M.
Duller. But I'm looking at
Mueller.
the phonetics of it and the way the letters are.
I know it just makes you want to say mule, but like it's just not it. Remember, all right, X-Files, Mulder. It's like that, but without the D. Anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it not only do Republicans keep doing shit, but like just the shit that Trump was into while he was in office, the amount of crimes was so ever fucking expansive that just cleaning up after him is like, even though he's not in office, it's just an all-consuming process. There's just new shit every day.
Every day. Now, and then as soon as something comes out about him, he knows his people don't read. So he just goes on TV and at one of his rallies and he goes, boy, all that money Biden had in his Chinese bank account.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah. All right. So what Ty is referring to is House Democrats released a report earlier this week that revealed that Trump made over $8 million just from foreign governments alone while he was in office. And that's not the totality of the money that he received from foreign governments. That is according to 1% of the income that they were able to investigate. Of that, $8.5 million came from foreign governments, largely from, countries we wouldn't necessarily consider our allies. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Russia, China. Yeah, you get it. Yep. So of course, like you said, Ty, the GOP, they don't read. So he can just get on TV and say fucking anything and they'll believe it without fact checking.
Anything. And then they repeat it as canon over and over and over. Now we know that he had bank account with like $4 million in China for
that secret Chinese bank account. We're not even talking about that.
And we know that, what is it that like the patents, when he admitted to having his patents or trademarks, like 116
Ivanka?
Chinese trademarks.
Yeah, she had
trademarks. Ivanka.
No, not Ivanka, Trump himself.
Oh, he has Chinese trademarks.
It was like a month or two ago. Yeah. But see, that's what I'm saying. It barely made a blip. Like I kept these things and then, and then it's on to the next. Because on the scale of Trump fuckery, that's an angel like he's not corrupt if that's the only thing, like, because he just did so much awful stuff that it's like, nah, so he had some, trademarks.
There's such a deluge of shit that Trump gets into that we like it never like no one specific thing ever gets to register. But then like Republicans can just make up one thing and then hammer it over and over, like accusing Biden of being corrupt for loaning his son money for a down payment for a car.
And his brother, but they talk about, okay, they go on and on about millions or billions of dollars from communist China, but we don't know the names of these quote unquote shell companies. They've never even mentioned one.
They ain't got a single receipt, Ty. Not a single receipt.
Not a wire transfer, nothing. And that's because that's what they want to
Yes, it's called counter programming. Right? You ignore what your side is doing, and then you only and look, first of all, before I even explain that, like it's gonna sound like, hey, isn't that what like the Democrats do? Don't they do the same thing? No, because there is corruption in the Democratic Party, but the thing is, when the shit happens, like Bob Menendez with the gold bars, we're like, great, arrest his ass, get him up out of there.
We're like, Andrew Cuomo's got to go. Like, get the fuck out of here, you pervert.
Exactly. We make senators resign and shit in the Democratic Party. So all this shit happens on the right, but the right-wing propaganda outlets, what they do is just they ignore that, and then they create these fake or phony plot lines that they can just hammer and send out. And this is not for the public, the masses per se, like the general public. This is for their particular viewership, like to keep them distracted from the scandals in their own party and to have them focus on what they perceive to be scandals by the Democratic Party. And it just, the only way to keep up appearances in the Republican Party is to lie to their viewers. Because if they tell their viewers the truth, like, I don't know, like Republican supporters would lose their mind if they actually learned the fucking facts. And we know this because, on the internet, even though Twitter isn't real life, it does reflect some minute portion of the population's thinking. And like, we can't even get people like, I'm arguing with morons about how January 6th was an insurrection 3 years after we watched the shit happen live on television.
They sit and they just play this. Oh yeah, it's like, dude, we all watched the shit.
We can pull up the video.
Like, seriously.
Mitch McConnell got on TV, said it was an insurrection.
A lot of them.
And the same for like Vivek Ramaswamy and.
Oh yeah, Vivek on like the next day? It might have been later that week when he was on Fox News and talking about this was a horrible event and he cried and shit. And now today he's like, happy entrapment day.
I guess they overestimated the patriotism and just goodness of Trump supporters, because I guess those elected officials thought that their best bet was to condemn the events of the day. And maybe there was some sincerity and fear mixed in there, maybe, but it seemed like Mitch McConnell and his ilk thought that they would do better by denouncing those events. And then I guess they were still under control. I don't know if they didn't know there was compromat on them, or they just, I don't know. They thought they were going to push this out of the way and they fucking failed.
Yeah, I don't know what decisions were made and why, but we know on the day of and the day after, Republicans was mad because them motherfuckers almost died too. And then apparently some backdoor deals were made before, they made they had the opportunity to convict Trump in his impeachment trial in the Senate. They only needed a handful of votes to get him the fuck up out of there. And I feel like what Republicans should have done at the time is GOP senators should have drawn straws, and then the losers had to vote to convict Trump, and then the party could have been rid of them forever. It could have been done with them. They could have been on their way to, given the state of affairs of the world economy and how it impacted America, even though, largely the struggles with inflation and such during 2021 and 2022 were outside of Biden's control because America was handling it better than most of the world. Of course, the media doesn't care to report that. Anyway, aside from that, had Republicans gotten rid of Trump, they could have been hammering that and then building towards a future 2024 candidate that might potentially have a chance of beating Biden. Instead, they decided to remain loyal to Trump, not bar him from running for office again. And now they had their opportunity, and then he took the fucking party back in like weeks. And now he's their fucking front runner. He might not even be fucking eligible for office. He might not even be on the ballot. He might be like, it's just, why did they do this to themselves?
Wait, who was the one that was going around? Was it Representative Burkett who was saying that there's so much dirt on everybody? They're all being blackmailed, basically said that what we've been thinking all along, because it's like they open the door to whatever space they keep Lindsey Graham in. And then he goes on the rounds out of the blue, nearly crying. And then he's gone again, never to be seen or heard from again.
Yeah. So Representative Tim Burkett, GOP rep,
straight shot to the kidneys,
went on Fox News a couple of weeks ago and was basically saying there are a number of members of the Republican Party who are likely being blackmailed and subject to being victims of compromising materials, compromise as you called it. And he was one of the things he was referring to were like photos and videos of some members of Congress being involved in explicit sexual activities with paid sex workers and such, and potentially visiting brothels. And we talked about this a couple of weeks, or it's been over a month now. So there was a brothel in Virginia, in a prominent part of Virginia known to be frequented by political figures. That brothel was shut down along with, I believe, a brothel in New Jersey, where a number of people of we'll just say financially well off or financially prominent or politically prominent people were known to have visited. This is one perfect example of how you can get caught in the honeypot.
Well,
the honeypot.
Well, see, they've probably been doing dirt for so long, and then there was no, the internet now, and all kinds of people have cameras. There's so much. Back in the day, it was like Heidi Fleiss's Black Book, the Mayflower Madam. I remember her back in the day, and it was like, oh my gosh, her little black book. But now it's like people have all kinds of stuff to survey people.
Surveil, yeah.
Get them, on video. Oh, did you American?
Wait, before you move on, and how Burkett is probably telling the truth is because we all saw what happened to Madison fucking Cawthorn. They got his ass straight up out of there.
Yeah. Yep. They did.
He talked about them coke orgies, and they was like, nah, son. They put out them videos of him with his quote unquote cousin, and he was gone. Peace out. We ain't never heard from dude again.
With his ass patch hair. That was fucking weird. That was
No. What was weird is, why are you inviting a dude in a wheelchair to the sex orgy? What's he gonna do?
Well, I heard that.
I'm sorry if I'm being ableist. All my wheelchair bound people out there, you deserve sex orgies as well. I apologize.
Yeah, just don't bring, far right people.
No, yeah.
It don't make no sense. You're in a wheelchair, but you're a Republican. It don't even add, do the math. They don't like y'all.
So many Republicans that don't make sense to me. Seriously.
Yeah, we got some brown Republicans out there running for president currently who don't make any sense. Nikki, with the KKKs, Nikki Haley, formerly known as Nimrata in her childhood, out here can't figure out how to explain the cause of the Civil War. Bitch, it was slavery.
She's a mess. And
No, it was states' rights to have slavery.
Well, she
Yeah,
never
right?
mentioned the slavery part. She conveniently left that out. And then she tried to double down. Like one of her explanations here over the last couple of days is as to why her original response didn't include an allusion of any sort of slavery. I think she said growing up she had a black friend. Bitch, what they got to do with anything, for one?
In India?
In South Carolina.
That's
When I
because
was
the
young,
white
I
people
had a
stopped
friend
playing
from a
with
lower
her.
caste.
That's why, probably because the white people wouldn't play with her. The white kids.
Well, she was lying, first of all, because she went to a segregated school. So there's absolutely no way she had a black friend. But you're right, Carol. I alluded to this on a previous episode of the podcast, solo episode. India, very well ingrained caste system. And, you come into America where our caste system is generally tied to the color of your skin. You're like, hey, if you can pass as white, and that might get your kid moving up in the world. Like, why don't you go ahead and do that? Well, that's what her parents did with her, apparently. She was like, I ain't out here kicking it with no brown and black kids. My name ain't them Ryder no more. Get these couple of plastic surgeries going on with the facial features, make me look a little less ethnic.
Just less.
Yeah, just less. Little less ethnic, little more Caucasian. And the next thing you know, I'll be running for president, bitch. I'm polling number 2, right? Well, I guess, technically Nikki Haley is polling behind Trump in the GOP. There's a caveat to that, though. The caveat is that even though the DeSantis, his polling is practically falling off a cliff, he is still the second favorite choice of Trump supporters. So if something should happen to Trump, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that Nikki Haley will be number 2. It's in all likelihood, say if Trump's removed from the ballot, then DeSantis becomes the number 2. Anyway, side note over. Ty, where were you going? I
was just gonna say, apparently, Lauren Boebert allegedly punched her ex-husband a couple times in the face today.
Oh, only today.
Apparently, it was in some restaurant in Silk, Colorado, and she, American Muckrakers, had put that out. They got a text or something. I forgot hold on. It was at the Miners Claim restaurant, and
never heard of it.
A scanner, and it's supposedly there's a witness.
Bro.
Wars to come, so we shall see.
Well, we finally got an equality in America. Now women can be credibly accused of domestic abuse. So tying back to one thing we said earlier when we're like, well, Republicans don't read. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene dropped her book. It sold no copies. There was a picture of her floating around on the internet today. Doing
kitty care? What the fuck? I
don't know. It looked like she was in a daycare signing copies of her book, and there was like literally no one there. And that's what you get, Republicans. You sit there and you turn all your fucking voters against simple things like books and reading and shit. And then you're like, hey, you know what? I got a really wonderful idea on how to make some money. I'm going to write a book. Well, who the fuck gonna read it? You made them hate books.
Good, interesting point. They never thought about thinking about it. There's no second part to the plan. Come on.
That's one way to put it, Carol. Yeah, they didn't think that part through. Like, oh yeah, books are bad, and then you like, yeah, I'm going to write a book. Maybe you should have considered that before you told everyone that books were bad. Probably not burn any and celebrate the burning of books either if you're going to become an author. These feel like fairly straightforward hints.
If whoever booked her there was trolling her.
At a daycare center, you said?
Yeah.
They trolled her into beating her husband. So yeah, you know what's funny? So I've been thinking about it for, a couple months here. Like, so what happens if like the 2024 election goes great and Biden's elected and then Trump goes to prison? And then, why are we even doing this podcast this one? We just hang it all up. And I'm going a couple places with this. For one, I'm sure like, first of all, I'd be totally fine with that. That'd be awesome. Like, I would love to have absolutely no reason whatsoever to do this podcast.
Yeah, we could pivot to whatever the hell we want to talk about all the time.
We just talk about whatever we want to. Brand new podcast. Title it something totally different.
We could talk about people in entertainment.
Maybe. But anyway, that'll never happen because Republicans won't stop Republicaning, and there's going to be
we can do whatever we want except for what Ty wants to talk about.
No, I'm just saying, like, so there's never going to be a point in time where our democracy is safe as long as the Republican Party in its current form still exists. So it's a somber thought, but I mean, that's the fucking truth.
It's also an easy decision.
Yeah, fair enough. But also, say 2024 goes great. Trump gets, beat in a landslide. This ain't the end of even the criminal investigations. Like, and I talked about this on previous episodes of the podcast over the course of last month. I talked about it on Twitter today. There's going to be more fallout. Trump ain't the only motherfucker Jack Smith is looking at. So Trump got indicted for what happened on January 6th in DC, in August, right? August of 2023. It's currently January. That investigation is still running. It's humming along. They ain't stopped looking at shit. You know what that means? That means once they wrap
keep
up,
finding evidence. There's gonna be so much.
That means once they wrap up with Trump, all the other co-conspirators are getting indicted. Yay! So there's going to be even far more fallout than what we're currently seeing. Again, I tell you, like,
is the Republican Party even going to be able to slate enough candidates? I mean, they're already dropping like flies out of Congress.
That is true, but as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, hope nobody dies.
Yeah, so they're probably not going to have again. So here's the thing. We're all like concerned now that the Supreme Court is taking up all of these, absurd Trump claims about immunity or whether or not he should be removed from the ballot. Like, the answers legally are obvious. We're not concerned that the Supreme Court is going to bail him out based on the facts or the law or any such matter. We're concerned that they're going to bail him out because it's a majority conservative and he appointed 3 of them motherfuckers. And again, just like with the compromise of, Republican members of Congress, like, who knows what the fuck he's got on the Supreme Court justices. We already know Clarence Thomas is compromised financially, so they could burn him on that. And then they got Roberts to they got Kennedy to resign so they could put Gorsuch on the bench. So, like, who knows what they got on Gorsuch in order to get Kennedy to resign so they could fill his position. And then we all know that all those people sent all that dirt on Brett Kavanaugh to the fucking White House and White House counsel's office. So, like, they know every bad thing Brett Kavanaugh has ever done. Congratulations, guys. We gave Trump all the information he ever needed to blackmail Kavanaugh. That was a genius move on our part. And then Amy Coney Barrett, she's just a wacko. Like, they ain't got to blackmail her.
She's awful.
Right. So what happens if these motherfuckers decide to, fall prey to Alina Habba going on national television and threatening them to bail Trump out? So say they, make some kind of ruling in some form or fashion. We don't have to get into the specifics. That just gets Trump out of trouble or delays his trial indefinitely. Well, what's going to happen is Jack Smith's going to have no reason to continue like playing shit close to the vest. He can put all his cards out there. He can indict everybody because the fact of the matter is that if Trump, is elected president in 2024, he's going to kill these investigations. He's going to kill the trial. He's going to have DOJ drop the charges, and he's going to pardon all of his co-conspirators. So it ain't no reason for Jack Smith to be like, well, I'll just wait until things play out before I, dump all the evidence on the public. No, he's going to go after everybody. You know how like people used to sit around and theorize and Mueller had like hundreds of indictments sealed and ready to go. That's going to be real shit. Like that's actually going to happen in this case if the Supreme Court bails Trump out with his criminal trials. But yeah, it's just... Hey man, it's wild times, crazy times.
I wish time would just slow down.
Carol just like put her hood on and like shrank away from that. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're cold?
Do you want me to get you like a space heater or something for you to?
Has it started snowing yet?
Yeah, well, I'm also like, this room that I'm in is like a finished attic, and I don't know if I've ever showed you the ceilings, but the
ventilation's not great. Yeah, I would
right
imagine. Here
it is not high. No one at home will benefit from this, but they're like over there, it's super high.
Yeah, if you could, she's got like what's it called?
Like a vaulted ceiling.
Yeah, vaulted ceiling.
It's just the roof.
One side, she's in the attic. It's basically the roof, and one side of it's vaulted, so like all the warm air rises far above the room.
The heat wasn't on when I came up here. So anyway, I'm wearing lots of things. I got to get back into it. I guess I haven't been that politically aware. I mean, I always say that, and I'm always, every time we do this, and I'm like, oh, I haven't been paying attention, and you're like, oh, okay, so you didn't see this and this. I'm like, oh, I saw that.
Okay, that's funny.
Different
for a couple
bar
of reasons.
For not paying attention.
No. The thing is like, so if you're listening to this podcast, one of the things we have to do is make some like editorial decisions. There's always so much going on. We can't record, like we would have to record the podcast just like 4 hours a day, every single day to talk about every single thing that happens. Cause there's so fucking much, but we, at least try to highlight, the most noteworthy items. Of course, sometimes what happens is we highlight the same thing, like every podcast is highlighting. But again, I don't necessarily feel as though that's a bad thing because like, what the right wing media outlets do is they just harp on the same stupid shit. Like at least we're harping on like legitimate issues and actual information and actual evidence and whatnot. But also, it's been Christmas time, Carol. You've been out of town on a cruise and shit. Like it's absolutely fine for you or Ty or myself or any of you listeners or anyone out there who's, politically engaged to take a fucking break. Cause politics ain't never been like this. It's always to some degree, whenever there's been a Republican in charge, is president of the United States, it's always been some kind of fucking crazy. Cause, W was insane. All 4 years or all 8 years of that was bananas. His daddy was kind of crazy, but he got most of his crazy in before he made his way into office. Reagan was up to some crazy shit, just banana shit. Like the fact that he wasn't criminally indicted is an anathema. And Nixon speaks for itself. So it's always been crazy when Republicans are in charge, but it ain't never been this crazy where we're like, all right, we're almost 4 years after the Republican president and we still cleaning up the fucking disaster and it's a nightmare every day. So if you feel the need to unplug and just clear your mind and clear your psyche and like breathe and woosah and like just coax yourself into like a manageable emotional state so you can survive the next year, do what you got to do. It's totally fine. If you got to take a break, it's okay. Just make sure you show up in November to vote.
Yeah, I feel like I should do a little more than that, but I could at least get back into writing postcards. And that's a pretty easy way to stay involved. I'll look up which organization I've been using for that and make Derek put it in the show notes.
That's a great idea. Actually, you should do that. One of the things.
Next one, there's a special election coming up soon to replace disgraced former Congressman George Santos. In New York's District 3.
I forgot all about that dude.
Well, so hopefully over the course of 2023, we'll all get it together on this podcast. We're gonna fucking crush it, try and get Biden in the office. And look, if things go well,
124, dude. I know it's like traumatic to say that kind of.
It really is. Like, I can't believe it's 2024. Yeah, 2024, like, we'll get Biden elected. We'll, like, maybe we can take a couple of weeks off and just, like, gather ourselves. Fingers crossed.
Well, they know that it's like this conflict in Gaza was a gift for Republicans because
it was, because it's like hits every note that they want to talk about. Like, if Biden's like, oh, Israel bad, they'll be like, all right, Biden's a Nazi.
Exactly. And then,
like, if Biden's like, well, hey, there was a bunch of terrorists who attacked Israel, we got to support our allies in their traumatic time of need and loss, and now idiots out here who don't like do any critical thinking and like a genocide Joe. Gift that but the thing is, they can't really capitalize on it in terms of like benefit for themselves. You can only try and use it to hurt Biden because, like, look, they Republicans want to nuke Gaza. They're like, let's kill all the Muslim people. Anyway.
Yeah. So I wonder how many, if we'll gain any Republican voters back, like more conservative Jews, if they think that Biden is very supportive of Gaza, of Israel.
I think what you're going to happen is normal people who are in the middle aren't going to leave Biden because, like, he's pretty fucking rational. And the other thing is, again, and I hate to say this, there's only so much warring Israel can do in Gaza. And so they're
eventually. Are you saying they're almost done?
No. I'm just, what I'm saying is like, there's not that much Gaza, so there's not that much war you can do.
Yeah, that's what I meant by done.
That's why they're turning to Iran, I think. I don't think that's a coincidence.
What I'm saying is, unlike this thing in Ukraine and Russia where it can drag on infinitely because Russia has an infinite amount of, well, not infinite, but they have millions of bodies they could throw into the meat grinder. And, Ukraine is such a large spread out country that you can have continued fighting for years on end. That's worst case scenario. Like Israel and Gaza, even if it drags on for years, the scale of it will have died down. And like, I hate to say this, people get so bored, even with war. They don't even talk about Ukraine no more on the news ever. Never no more. And we're approaching an insane number of Russians dying. Nobody cares. I hate to say this. Gaza ain't going to be a problem in the 2024 election. I'm just telling you. And like, you're not going to believe me, but I'm absolutely telling you, when we get to 2024, nobody even gonna remember Gaza. If they wanted like Israel and Gaza to be a problem for Joe Biden, maybe they should have told Hamas to hold off until like election season. Anyway, and again, I'm supportive of the Israeli people. I think the Israeli government, however, is a dumpster fire. This is what happens when you let right-wing nut jobs take over your country. America, take the hint. I'm also supportive of Palestinian people. But again, like, also
just the warning, not that we could do much except vote.
Oh yeah, we don't have.
What happens when you corrupt the Supreme Court and allow it to be unchecked?
Yeah, well, part of the problem, I don't want any Palestinians to die, and you know what? That's why Hamas shouldn't have started a war, but that's a whole nother, we'll say that for another podcast. I hope we find some resolution for whatever's going on in Israel and Palestine. This has been like a multi-decade problem. Biden ain't gonna be able to fix it. And you can't anyway, I'm done with that. That's not what this podcast is for. I don't even remember where I was going because I got so totally thrown off.
That it's okay to take a break, like Ty, who may be sleeping.
Yeah, Ty, you still with us?